Okay, another day, another dollar, so to speak. So, not necessarily doing the critique thing. I'm going to be doing Invicta streams, and today uh, I'm going to be starting off with Phoenix Sands by Clint, the Unholy One. I'm trying to check off which ones I've actually gone through to make sure. I think we're down to like the final six. So, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not counting this one, so I'll check this one off as well. And that'll leave me 5. I'm going to be on a weird schedule today because I'm actually going to have to take the vet or the dog into the vet today about 11:45. So I'll try to pinch in as many as I can today and get these things wrapped up. So we're going a little bit faster since I will no longer be doing what I consider to be critiques. So I think this is the one. And from the sounds of it, we're going to get to play it in crazy high winds. So with no warm-up shots or any feel whatsoever with this controller this morning, then it sounds like we're going to play it in 12 miles an hour and above. Let's see if that holds true. Yep, there we go. So I'm sure I'm going to have just a lovely round here. If I'm not mistaken, they're firm, so hip hip hooray. I'll just stick it up in this bunker and be done with it. Let's say Clint. Yep, I can already tell you I will not enjoy this round at all just based on the wind. It has nothing to do with the course or anything else, but this is a shitty way to start the morning. There we go. I don't care if it calms down or not, man. It is what it is. Play rounds like this on tour all the time. Yeah, thanks. A lot of that has to do with work we've done together, like long before we After Dark actually started out as this. It kind of started around the Summer Showdown. I streamed a lot with Dan during that time, and I've always had good rapport with Matt, so that's kind of how all that came around. And that was the beginning of the After Dark thing, based on Doily coming back and saying, "You guys need to do a show," and it just turned into what it is. But yeah, goodbye, ball. This would look better if the light was allowed to come through and actually hit off those bunkers to kind of showcase them, but that's what it is. God, good Lord. Fuck this. There's no way in hell I'm going to control the ball in these winds. I don't even know how to play firm greens. I can't club down to 95-yard shot on that. That's just stupid. Then the ball's not going to get there and spin back on me like a mother if I do it. So this is a let's just suffer through it and see what happens kind of round. It's actually not hard at all to balance your lighting to shine nicely all over. You just have to think about where your trees are at. So that's all I got to say about that. I mean, you can take trees out and you can move trees in, to put areas in shadow and make them light. So, once again, nothing I'm going to argue about this morning, but to say that it can't be done is poppycock. God, this sucks. Nothing wrong with your course on this one, Clint. I just can't get the damn. I mean, this wind is going to fucking torture me. Okay. I've got other shit going on, man. I've got a sick dog that I got to take to the vet in a couple of hours. I'm still a little pissed off about all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, it is what it is. And I'm definitely not cool with like waking up and playing my first course in 17-mile-an-hour winds. So I don't find the enjoyment in that. I don't like doing it playing in competition. I mean, if this wasn't for something I just have to get done now, then I wouldn't play this shit in this winds. I don't like this game when it starts getting up to 16, 17 miles an hour. It's stupid. I don't feel like you actually get to see how a course plays in those kind of winds. As much as people want to argue with me saying, you got to play a course in 15-mile-an-hour winds if you really want to know how it plays, if you really want to see how I design. I don't buy that shit at all. This isn't fun. Not even the least bit enjoyable to me. So, and I don't have time to turn it off and not play it right now because I've got today and tomorrow to wrap these things up. I've still got a PYP round that I'm going to play, which I told Clint from the beginning that this month's going to be tough because of this, and then I'm gone for the rest of the month. here in about 2 weeks. I won't be back until February, so I don't know what I'm going to do about my rounds. God. I guess the only way for me to actually play this shot is just to lob it down here to the end of the damn fairway and play from there, because I don't think I can get the ball anywhere close to. Fuck. That's what I'm saying, Clint. I won't be around for 2 of those weeks, man. As of the 19th, I'm gone for the rest of the month. So, fuck. So it went from minus 18 to minus 13 from the time I took my club back to the time I hit the ball. That's pretty sweet right there. That's pretty sweet. This is a bad idea if you're going to use firm greens, Clint. You don't need that slope off behind it, man. Do that shit on firm greens if you want to have a 120, 130 yard shot. Don't do that on 180s and 190s. That's just stuff that'll drive people crazy. Unless, of course, you distinctly made this for PGA Euro and you want this kind of stuff. That's fine, but this is usually not a good idea. That, by most people, is called tricked out. Keep working with your fairway brushes and such on this. You can get a little bit cleaner look. What you have doesn't look bad, but you make some of these brushes fit together a little bit better. It's just a complete eyeball thing, but how you have like this really stark point right here and how it runs compared to what you have squiggly over here on the side, you can just make it look a little bit more precise. I know I shouldn't comment on things like that because it's wrong, but just telling you. That all comes with time and the designer. Best thing in the world you can do sometimes is go look at different people's courses, and I'm not going to say that some of them are, the best, because I mean, I think Reeb, Canuck, Taste, they all do a great job of making their brushes fit their fairways and everything. But then you look at somebody like Patrick Yates. As much as I like his designs, I think he's a great designer. He's not necessarily the cleanest with how he puts his fairway brushes together, but you're just trying to get a nice, consistent flow back and forth in your brushes, just to kind of make it fit. That ball has more movement than what it's trying to show me right there. Apparently it doesn't. I mean, I see movement in the fucking green right behind right there. I saw movement whenever I like panned back out on it, but I aimed left corner on it and it rolled right over the corner. So, fuck me. Maybe I can get this to 5 over par before I finish the round. And some pretty decent routing on this. Holes seem like they fit together. Bunkers are something that's going to come with time. Okay, let's hit it in the bunker. I'm all for hitting it in this bunker. Something like that, Ola. I mean, I was only up till like 2:30 in the morning talking to Reeb, but my God, I got a birdie. Yay. Yeah, we talked for a while after you bailed. We didn't go through a lot of the a lot of the holes that haven't had any kind of work done. He was pointing things out on 1 through 11. Then he looked at 14, and we talked about 17 a little bit. He actually likes my idea on 17. He thinks it'll be really cool, but I've got to implement that first. But everything else was about things that I already knew for the most part. With that curvy look that's like going on, just making some of the areas wider than what I currently have it. But I told him that that's just kind of the initial stages of it. It's more of the thought behind what's going on. So it was all that. But he likes the ideas. You may not like it, and if you don't like it, then we'll change it up and go a different direction. So I don't want you to feel like that we're locked into it or anything. That wasn't the point at all. I was just trying something different. I had 6 before this one. I have 5 left after I wrap this one up, but I'm gonna have to take a break mid-morning. I've got to take my dog to the vet. She's got some breathing issues going on. She's 15 years old, so I can't let it go on any further. So we got to go have it looked at and figure out what it is before it gets to be something we can't treat. And like I said, we're about to be out of town for the rest of the month, so I don't need to leave town with her having freaking pneumonia. Yep, it'll be fine. Just got to have it looked at, taken care of. It's part of what happens when you have an old geriatric dog. God, I don't know that. So I'm guessing this is a playable area out to this side because I don't know that I can reach that fairway over there in 15-mile-an-hour winds. Like, I'm not sure I can reach this fairway in 15-mile-an-hour winds. You see where I'm going with this, Clint? Well, that worked, but that was right by the hair of my chinny chin chin. Yeah, you can. It just looks a little bit deceptive. That works out, but I don't know that it was easy. It sure as hell didn't seem like he was going to make it there from the tee box, so that works. I can live with that. Crisis averted. Wow. 84 frickin' yards. Or I'm sorry, 81. Playing to 82 with a 15-mile-an-hour wind. I don't care if I'm long on it or not. I'm just not playing that down at that level. Nice work on this bunker right here. It's actually pretty hard to sculpt with it being that tight. So there's some time spent on that. I can see him sitting there doing this over and over and over again for a while until he finally got it down. Still make this little ridge a little bit smoother going in there by going to your soft round fuzzy, raising it up a foot, and just slowly working it from this side over to the other side and keeping that area level and feeding into a different elevation right there. And that'll keep it from getting all those little pits down the bottom of it. But that's really good work on that bunker. I thought maybe you got too cute with it at the beginning. It's funny, I know exactly what shapes he used. So he used this shape right here on that one. I call it the peanut shape. So you use the peanut shape on that. And then I call this the dying man bunker right there because when you turn it this way, it looks like a man. So you get the two fingers right there. You get that side, and then you get the head to feed into that one. And then you use the W bunker is what I call this one to feed into that. So he used three shapes to make a pretty good looking bunker. It's just funny that after you spend so much time in the designer that you begin to pick out shapes like that. You can tell automatically what shapes people used on things. This one doesn't fit as much, so oh no, it's just weird. That bunker just seems out of place on this course because you haven't really done that look anywhere else. But oh, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to say shit like that. My bad. Just saying. No, sorry, Michael. I'm not gonna subject myself to it anymore, man. I will do these as streams. I will not do these as any kind of critiques because people can't handle it. Like I said, you get some of the PMs I get and some of the snarky ass messages, then it'll eventually make you say fuck it too. I mean, there's things I'd point out like right here that I would like to actually be able to see that bunker from back here. So there would be some sculpting that you can do right here. I would actually run this from the high side on this side and let it run down and feed down in this valley. That way you're still getting kind of an odd look on your you're still giving a slope, you're just flipping it the other way. But what it does is give you this view down into your green complex when you're lying there. So it's just a better look. Right now it's completely blocked off. But I shouldn't say stuff like that because it's completely wrong. I have no basis for saying anything like that. It is in no way correct. It is entirely subjective, only my opinion, and blah, blah, blah. Oh, and the other one is I should come back and play this in 2 mile-an-hour winds. I should play it in 10 mile-an-hour winds. I should play it in the winds I currently have, and I should try to get it in winds over 20 miles an hour because I have no idea how this course will play if I don't play it in all those wind conditions. A little bit of both, Ola. Little bit of both. So if you guys want legitimate, honest feedback about it, catch me after the contest is over. I'll get on and do a stream with you in the party, and I will play it, and I will give you exactly what I think about the course. But I will no longer be doing it for these. Shitty putt. Shitty, shitty, shitty putt. So we'll get 2 over now. These greens are only 160 something. I'm sitting here playing this course. They're 161s. I've been sitting here playing it like they're 178s or something. So I earned that one. I earned that bogey. The yeah, sculpting is something that takes time, and it's something that I mean you've been more on the player side of things up to this point, Clint. So I think you're just now really starting to get a new perspective for design and kind of what goes into it. So you're probably going to start looking at courses differently, even when you're just playing through your rounds. And it's never a bad idea to pick up people that you think are good designers and just kind of look and see what they do. And especially if you want to look at sculpting, Taste and Reebdug and even Adam Hill are all three people that are very, very good at sculpting. I mean, different people have different talents and excel in different areas. And I know you spend a lot of time with Todd and Brandon Pugh, and while I think they're both great designers, and I really like their work. I don't think they're as strong on the sculpting game as people like Taste, Reeb, and Adam Hill. They do other things better than those three guys do, but from a sculpt standpoint, those are three guys I'd definitely take a look at their work. Not crazy about the look around this bunker. I don't know exactly how you went, the way it looks. Whether you did this or not, I don't know. But this looks like you set this brush down. You've heard me say this on several themes now, but it looks like you put your fairway brush down and you just came back with your bunker shapes and went plop. There's a bunker. It's usually not a good way to approach these. It's usually better to either lay this bunker down and move and then come back and put your fairway around it and then collar this thing up nice because this is a really, really, really thin collar. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the hole at all. Whole play is fairly cool and everything else, but you can clean the look up just by being approaching this a little bit different. Either put these bunkers down and then come back around to your fairway, or lay your fairway in a shape that you want and leave room for the bunkers where you can come back in and mold your bunkers to the shape of your fairway. I tend to put my bunkers down first and then build my fairway around them, but that's just my own personal thing. Yeah, I don't even use that red brush, to be honest. I can't even tell you the technique on it. I've seen it done, but I don't personally use it, so I'm not going to get into the specifics of how to do that. Lower the terrain with the red brush until it goes all the way down, then it pops back up. It's just, like I said, I've seen it. Um, I think it works on some things. I've seen it done on pot bunkers where it looks somewhat decent. I've seen it in other areas where it doesn't look good at all. But same thing on this one right here. Just not a fan of the not having a collar on your bunker. It takes away from some of the other looks you've had going on this course. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to say shit like that. It looks wonderful, man. It's fucking awesome. So same thing. Already talked about it briefly, but just cleaning up the shapes of some of your fairway brushes and everything else. I'm not going to harp on the scalloped edging right here because that's more of a function of how of the editor more so than the person. I mean, there is a way to alleviate that and not have it, but I'm not going to get into all that. But you could definitely be a little bit smoother in your transitions from brush to brush. But it's not a bad look. Nothing wrong with what you've done at all. It's just if you're trying to make it as clean as possible, it can be cleaner. Okay, let me repeat that again. There's nothing at all wrong with what he's done here, but if he wants it to look a little bit cleaner, that is a suggestion that can or cannot be taken for what it's worth. So I want to make sure that we're clear on that. I'm not saying he has to do it, guys. I'm not saying. Well, anyway, you guys get the point. Oh no, Royce, I do have to apologize. Believe me, I have to make sure that everybody completely understands that everything done on every one of these courses is perfectly acceptable, perfectly fine. It's all tour worthy. It's a fantastic fucking job. That if I have anything that I point out or anything, I just need to clarify that it's only because that's how I would do it. It has nothing to do with how the course actually looks or anything. You think I'm exaggerating on that? Run a contest and do this and come do some critique. See what happens to you, man. See how much fun it is. Stupid damn comments on half this stuff. It's crazy. I absolutely do have to clarify what I'm saying on it. Damn, that still carried out too far. Oh well. Got me on that one. I knew the slope was there. Knew I couldn't leave it long. But that's what I get for trying to play that shot on firm and fast. This is just a personal opinion of mine. It has absolutely really nothing to do with what Clint's done on this. I like the idea of the shared green down here. I mean, that can be a cool look when it's implemented correctly. This one, just even for firm, this felt a little bit big, and he may have gone that way just so he could have different multi-pins and different angles into it. But between playing it on this hole and playing on this one, it just felt like a really big damn green. But once again, that's just my own personal taste, looks, and the way that I look at it. So I personally probably would have made it a little bit smaller. Yep. Nice job of implementing the clubhouse on the 18th right there. So it's not a bad look at all. You can accomplish that, Clint, but you can accomplish it better without necessarily going with this shape right here. A better way to implement that would be using a little bit more. What's the way I'm trying to say? Piece together some shapes, create some curves flowing into this to where you can narrow it out at this point. You can still leave your playable area big over here. You can kind of cut this back in, then widen it back out and move it back in, but then you narrow it off when you're moving into this green. And then you do the exact same thing over to this side. Work your edges over here and create some edges and work it into a narrow area here. And then from a narrow area here, you work it back out with some shapes, and then you bring it out to the wider side over here. And you'll be surprised what it does. It actually brings a lot of character into your hole, because now not only do you feel like you have two separate greens, you still have that effect of having a shared green right there, but you've made it feel like two separate greens, and you've also now created some different contours on your green to be able to play with your bunkers and make your hole look a little bit dynamic. So imagine that look, and then take this bunker right here, and instead of it laying the way that it is going that way, you can now hug the contours and create a completely different look on that hole that is not only a little bit more visually dynamic, but it creates a little bit different feel in the play as well. You're going to bring it into play a little bit more. So instead of having your bunker played off over here, this only comes into play really if you just hit a shitty shot. More times than not, it's just there for the visuals. If you bring that and you actually have it wrapped around and you have a pin location tight right here, well, then all of a sudden it's in play, especially on firm greens. You're going to make a person play to a different side. But you can do a lot to add the character to a hole just by changing up your shapes a little bit and kind of moving your green in and out a little bit more. And it, like I said, it just gives it a little bit of character. But just my opinion. I haven't really felt like your bunkers were out of place. There were a couple that I felt like were maybe hit or miss on it. Um, but, that is what it is. You're going to have some of the same issues that a lot of people that are newer designers are going to have, and it's just going to be a little bit of polish, a little bit of finish. I think it's a great course. Just in your first attempt at one, but you're still relatively new in the designer, and I think it's, really well done for what it is. Nothing to hang your head about at all. And a lot of what you're talking about is just going to come with time in the designer, man. Sometimes you'll have to look and see what other people do. You're not trying to straight copy what other people do, but when you look at like what other designers do, then you start seeing different things, and you approach it a little bit different way. You go from being a player that looks at the way a green is sloped and saying, oh, well, this is a tricky green or whatever, and now you're going to look at it from the perspective of a designer like, oh, I see what he was going for here. I see how he's trying to make the ball work and all that. But and bunkers are just one of those things that, hell, Ola will tell you, it's just something you have to get used to, and your style may not be what everybody else's style is, and there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't have to look exactly like everybody else's course does, but you do have to find a consistency and a style of actually doing it and make it fit what your concept is. But yeah, fuck me, I got it back up to or under even par anyway. So for half-assing around in 15-mile-an-hour winds, I can't complain too much about that. But yeah, I mean it's a good, solid course, man. It's definitely playable. Um, There were a couple of things that, with it being a firm course, that I probably would have done a little bit different, and a lot of that just has to do with some of the sloping on the greens. With some of the distance you have on some of those shots, I think you could be a little bit cleaner on the way that you've sloped some of the greens, namely being a little bit more back to front on a couple of those, especially when they're longer. You know, anything you start getting above 155, 160 yards, anything beyond that point, I don't like seeing the green run off in the back like that because, I mean, you're starting into longer shots and not knowing what the wind's going to be. You're taking the club out of the player's hands sometimes. Then you're just making them say, "Oh shit!" But you could also be a little bit more exaggerated in some areas on your greens to where you can help people move their shots towards the hole and still be able to use some of that same contouring to move the ball away from the hole if they're not landing in the spot. That's the key to firm greens. Now, I've never really talked in depth about this. When you play firm greens, especially if you're making firm greens, and especially if you're trying to have it on a green where it can be multi-pin. Now, if you're never going to multi-pin it, it doesn't matter. Put the pin where you want it to, find your spot, and let it ride. But if you're wanting to multi-pin it, you have to pick out 4 distinct spots on that green where your pins are going to be, and you have to find the spot where the player has to land to get the ball of that pin. There's always got to be one spot for a player to land that rewards them for that shot. I don't care if it penalizes them if they miss that spot. That's up to the player to look at the green, to figure out where that spot is, and to get that shot there regardless of the wind, regardless of whatever. But you've got to look at firm greens that way right there. Find your spot and then build everything around those spots. So that would be the one recommendation as a newer designer that I can give you as far as like working with firm conditions. Be careful of front to back slopes and make sure that when you're going through that your greens are big enough to hold the shot. So if it's a 180-yard shot in there, and you did a pretty good job of this throughout this course, you've got to make sure the green's big enough to accommodate a 181-yard shot on firm settings, which means it's really not a good idea to put it 3 yards away from the front edge of the green. That is hard for the sake of being hard. I mean, there's only one of 2 ways to play that shot, and most people aren't going to like it. Doesn't matter if they birdie or not, they're still going to say, that's a shitty pin placement, you know. If you want to use front pin locations like that, it's either going to have to be very short or you're going to have a day of medium settings or something else like that to accommodate front pin positions on long holes. But that's a whole different subject. But all in all, I think you did a great job with it. I think it plays very fair in firm conditions. Hell, even with those shitty-ass winds that I had. Not going to lie, I don't like playing in winds like that. That takes some of the enjoyment out of it, but it has nothing to do with your course at all. I still think it played pretty fair. A little bit of clean up here and there, a little bit of polish, which is simply time in the designer. You're just going to have to keep on going with it now. You know, everything you do from this point on is going to get better and better and better because you're going to learn from every single course you do. So I was going to make a comment towards Ola, but I didn't know how it was going to be received. I was going to be like, well, if you want a lesson for him on greens, man, that's great. I tend to like him, but I know other people kind of get bent out of shape with them. But the more than anything, just look at your greens and make sure they make sense. Make sure your slopes have a reason behind them, you know. That's the biggest thing on them, is just make sure there's a purpose behind it. Just don't put red and yellow in places because you think there needs to be red and yellow sloping on your course. Make it serve a purpose, whether to stop a ball, whether to carry a ball to a different area if somebody's way off on a shot, and that doesn't mean put your pins right up against red and yellow. Just make it have a purpose. But anyway, still a good solid course, man. We'll see how it does throughout the competition, and look forward to seeing more of what Clint brings out in the future. I already saw a vast improvement in this course over the first one that I looked at of his. So I think he can do some good things down the road. So just keep up at it, man. So this one lasted right at an hour. It's 9:48. That put me at 10:48. So I'll tell you what, I'll try to squeeze in one more. And then I've got to go take a shower and take the dog to the vet. So I'll be right back.